This is Flamer, currently the most banned book in Wisconsin, Oklahoma, and Tennessee because of its LGBTQ+ content. Today, we'll take a deep dive. We'll talk about the main character and his circumstances. We'll discuss the themes of this book, including religion, body image, and same-sex attraction. We'll talk about the author, Mike Curato, and why he wrote the book. Finally, we'll try to understand why people like this guy want to ban the book.
If you're a parent and you have a kid in school, go to their library and make sure that book's not in there.
Subscribe to the channel to never miss a video from me. We also host premieres on this channel where we hang out in the chat, so make sure to hit that bell button to know when the next premiere is. Flamer revolves around Aidan Navarro, a young Boy Scout who spends his last summer before high school with the Flaming Arrow Patrol. In many ways, Aidan is not like the other boys in his group. For instance, he prefers basket weaving over volleyball. Whereas other boys call each other faggots as a joke, words like this hurt Aidan. For example, on page 124, a boy tells Aidan, "Don't take it so personal. Guys call each other faggots all the time." And Aidan responds, "So I'm just supposed to be okay with that?" Despite the challenges that Aidan will face that summer, scouting affords him a break from his tumultuous family situation. As the oldest child in the family, he feels responsible to shield his siblings from his father's frequent bursts of anger. For example, on page 24, Aidan says, "At least I'm not at home. Life there is complicated. My dad is in a perpetual bad mood. We all tiptoe around, hoping not to set him off. He gets mad about everything." That summer, Aidan develops a crush on Elias, another boy from his group. They share a tent and pair up for various activities. At some point in the book, they even sneak out together at night. This forces Aidan to confront his same-sex attraction, something that is not easy to do since he's constantly exposed to homophobia. Boys in his patrol often use homophobic slurs. Aidan is being called a faggot repeatedly in the book. He also feels he'll be the victim of intimidation once high school starts. We see this on pages 106 and 107. Aidan says, "Wish I could say that finishing middle school means that I don't have to worry anymore. But I know that it's probably just gonna get worse next year." And the scouts, at least in the book, openly discriminate against gay people. This is made very clear to Aidan when his favorite scout leader gets fired mid-summer for being gay. On page 266, Aidan hears this conversation between counselors. "I actually think it's ridiculous that they let him go. For what? We can't risk having people like that around our kids. Who says this guy is a pedophile? So someone found out he's gay, so what?" There are many themes in this book, one of which is religion. Aidan's Catholic faith adds a layer of guilt to his journey of self-discovery. For example, on page 127, Aidan says, "I read in a book once that faggot actually refers to a bundle of sticks. In medieval times, homosexuals were burnt alive at the stake as if they were human firewood. I can't imagine dying like that. But then, I can't imagine how much hotter the flames of hell would be." Body image is another prevalent theme in this book. Unlike other boys of his age, Aidan is not comfortable in his own skin. For example, on page 11, Aidan says, "Dr. Rice also likes to point out how I'm fat. Well, maybe not fat, overweight. Still sounds like fat to me." Showering time is always a terrifying experience for him. On page 72, Aidan says, "There's nothing I hate more than shower time. Well, communal shower time anyway. I like being clean, but I don't want to be seen." Everything that Aidan is struggling with that summer will plunge him into a depressive state, and he'll go as far as contemplating hurting himself. This happens toward the end of the book, but we're not gonna spoil it today. I personally could relate to Aidan's experience. Growing up, I struggled with my orientation and had body image issues, but I'm not the only one who related to this book.
I hate that word, gay. It makes me feel unsafe. As somebody who went through some of the same internal struggles as the protagonist, I felt this deep within my soul. It was 1995 when I too began questioning my orientation and filtering the answer through the lens of the faith that had been imposed upon me, my parents' traditional values, and a society which rejected anything perceived as different.
By the way, I would love to know what banned book you think we should cover next. You can let me know in the comments below or suggest a title on my Linktree. I can't wait to read your suggestions. In a previous video we covered genderqueer. Unlike that book, Flamer is not a memoir. Nonetheless, Aidan's story draws inspiration from the author's lived experience. On page 364, the author says, "This book is a work of fiction, and yet much of it is based on my personal experiences." But why did Mike Curato write Flamer in the first place? Here's what he had to say.
I wrote Flamer because when I was Aidan's age, that's the main character of the book, he's 14, I didn't have a book like this to sort of validate who I am. I wrote this book because I want to help young people who are in the vulnerable place that I was in when I was their age.
The author goes on to talk about the importance of representation in the media.
When you don't see yourself in media, when you're told that your sexuality is immoral, when you're told that you're supposed to look a certain way and you don't, when you see other people who don't look like you, who you'll never look like, being lauded as like the ideal, you start to think that you're not supposed to be here. When I was 14, I thought I was alone. I thought no one else was like me and I was a total freak. The truth of it was there were lots of people like me, all living, you know, in a bubble.
Obviously, the author is aware that this book is being challenged across America.
The hardest thing for me is thinking about the readers that don't have access to the book that need it. I'm worried about them. I'm worried about, you know, a kid in the middle of Texas who isn't allowed to read a book about themselves. I feel like the same folks who are trying to challenge and ban books are also the same folks who will be the first to let you know if they feel like their First Amendment rights are being infringed upon. We don't get to have the same rights. Why? Because they think we're gross. I don't see how that really holds up in a court of law.
Speaking of those challenges, it's time to dig deeper into the conservative-led effort to ban this book. Regular viewers are aware of the context surrounding these book bans, but since most of you are new to the channel, let's take a look at this recap.
A study by the American Library Association found that more than 1,500 books were challenged or banned by schools, libraries, and universities in 2021. Most were written by or about LGBTQIA or Black individuals. For comparison, the association noted just 273 challenges or bans in 2020. Even children's books are coming under attack.
They include a book called Anti-Racist Baby.
The American Library Association tracks the most challenged and banned books in America. According to their database, Flamer is the most banned book in 3 states: Wisconsin, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. Overall, Flamer is the 4th most banned book in America currently, and it was the subject of 62 known challenges. Those who challenged Flamer cite LGBTQ+ content and claim the book is sexually explicit. The Secretary of Public Education in Oklahoma asked schools to ban this book, so we're gonna use this as our case study today.
State officials tell me they've called for the removal of Flamer, saying it contains pornographic and inappropriate content.
This book, now the talk of the state. As you flip through the pages, a teenage boy's story of self-discovery and acceptance is shown. His feelings for another boy shine through each chapter. That story, though, shown through drawings in what some call disturbing context.
Ryan Walters, the Secretary of Public Education, thinks this book is so problematic that he decided to devote his time and efforts to remove it from libraries. In my opinion, this is not the best use of a public official's time.
You don't need any type of overly sexual material
in a school with minors.
The state secretary of public education saying the books need to be removed from shelves immediately.
The books don't need to be made available. We're looking into, this is pornography, and it's pornography that's being pushed to minors.
I'm certain that Mr. Walters has a first-hand understanding of what pornography is, no pun intended. It's hard to believe that the secretary truly believes that Flamer is a book you read with one hand. Instead, he uses Flamer as a scapegoat to mobilize the conservative base at the local level.
School boards need to be vigilant on this. Our school boards need to get involved. Parents keep speaking out.
This type of rhetoric works in the US. Parents angrily showed up at school board meetings to oppose Flamer, but other parents tried to stop them.
Tomorrow night, the Newtown School Board of Education will vote on whether to ban 2 books, but many parents in the community are trying to stop that plan in its tracks.
They're going to vote to ban these books, and that's exactly what it is. No uncertain circumstances, this is a banning of books.
The books, Blankets by Craig Thompson and Flamer by Mike Curato, are graphic novels dealing with coming-of-age issues including gender identity and sexuality.
Parents took turn to support and opposed the proposed ban.
Debate has been fierce at recent Board of Ed meetings, with many parents pointing out the book's importance to LGBTQ youth, but others object to explicit material.
I think some of these things in these books are obscene and of a disgusting and pornographic style nature that should not be available to minor children.
Some board members have proposed requiring parental consent before the books could be borrowed.
In the end, the outrage was entirely manufactured by political rhetoric because
Flamer has never been checked out of the high school library, and Blankets was just once, nearly 10 years ago. The head of the Connecticut Library Association says 38 similar challenges have popped up in other Connecticut towns as well.
I thought, well, that'll never happen in Newtown because it's Newtown. There's bigger things to worry about. People are very concerned with the welfare of children, and they're not going to be blinded by arguments that are, silly or meaningless. And yet here we are in Newtown.
So it's not as though a child checked out Flamer, brought it home, and angered a parent. It's fake outrage. What is frustrating is the fact that some people did not even bother reading the book before heading to their school board meetings and oppose it.
We know our rights as parents, and we know that right now our rights are being infringed upon. So I'm going to read from this book. I didn't want to. I have not had to do that up to this point. But considering that someone said that this book should go back on the shelf, by the way, I'll pay the library fine. I'm not returning the book. So you can reorder it, whatever you're going to do.
She also threatens to steal the book from the library. How democratic of her. Mike Curato actually spoke about these challenges at school boards and by people in power.
What doesn't get spoken about in these PTA meetings, in these school board meetings, what's not spoken about by these government officials who are pointing at this and calling it pornography is that this is a book about suicide prevention. This is a book about telling someone that regardless of how someone may disagree with who you are as a person, you still deserve to be here. There is a place for you, and no one has the right to take that away.
Unsurprisingly, the opposition to this book made its way to YouTube.
But everybody's pissed off at DeSantis for banning books like this. If you get mad over this kind of book being taken out of school, you know what you are. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have to say it. A map. Or a pedo. That's disgusting.
As with genderqueer, people who oppose Flamer also use the LGBTQ+ grooming children conspiracy theory to justify their argument.
Flamer. Fucking perverts is what they are. They're all fucking perverts. But I'm glad they're exposing themselves. I really am. It needed to be done. I guess I never in a million years would have imagined as many as there are. Holy shit, there's a lot of them. And notice how it seemed to be centered in schools. The teachers, for one, with their blue hair and their big glasses and their constant, gender identity discussions and sex. Kids pretty much aren't safe anywhere today.
With that being said, I want to make sure that we all understand that most people on this platform actually liked the book and thought it was an important story to tell. There is hope, everybody.
It's an incredible read, and I encourage you to check it out. This is the graphic novel Flamer, and I hope you like it.
And it is this scene that I think takes Flamer from being a good story to one of the best YA books I've ever read.
So Flamer is not the easiest story to read, but it is one of the most rewarding books that you will pick up all day.
It's definitely like a great LGBTQIA book for anyone, but particularly for anyone who's sort of middle school coming of age. But I kind of think everyone should read it. It definitely builds empathy.
It's a really powerful read, and it did make me cry at the end, so.
As for myself, I'm glad I read this book. It really spoke to my live experience. Like Aidan, I also questioned my orientation when I was his age, and dealing with other boys felt complicated. I also dealt with body image issues, and I still do, although it's getting better. From my perspective, this book was written from a place of authenticity, and for that reason, I really recommend Flamer. If you like this video, just like the video. You might also like this one. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and I'll see you very, very soon for another banned book review. Bye!